Cool. So this program is being recorded now. Uh, Once again, welcome. And this is the third day of our discussion. Today we're going to talk about the block three of our syllabus. So here's a small presentation that I'll begin with. So this block is primarily about written communication, right? Unit 9, which is about basics of written business communication. Now, written communication has a lot of, uh, you know, things associated with it, but then here we are specifically focusing on the business, the written part of business communication. Now, there's a process that we follow in writing a business communication, or maybe communicating in through writing in business. So the step one says understanding your reader. It is very important whom are you writing to, right? So obviously one, you need to first understand whether it is a business to business communication. Are there one of your so these people whom you're communicating with, are they your say suppliers or dealers or your associates in some way or other, or are they your clients or customers? If they are your clients or customers, what, or otherwise also, what age category do they belong to? Are they men, are they women, are they from a certain ethnic group? Which culture do they hail from? Or and so many other things. So we need to understand whom are we talking to, even when we are planning our advertisements. So even the print advertisements that you publish, they're all written, or maybe on hoardings when you present your advertisements, when you present your products. Even that is written communication. Now you need to understand whom are you catering to, whom are you addressing, right? So once you understand that, your language, what kind of language do you use, what kind of maybe colors, fonts that you're using, everything depends on whom are you addressing. If you understand that, so if it is youngsters, it will be more peppy, more lively, more you know young in nature. The choice of words is going to be younger. If you're addressing somebody who's very senior, or maybe somebody who hails from a certain say government setup, right? So such people will have to be addressed in a certain way, with following certain protocols, understanding the do's and don'ts. So all this differs a lot. When you understand the reader, it becomes easier. Step two is finding the purpose. Why are you writing it? What is your intention of writing? Is it a request to get something done? Is it say are there some kind of instructions that you're sharing with people? So if it is a, say, a leaflet along with the product, right? Suppose if it is an electric shaver, say, right? Now if you're sending in a written note with it, people so as to help people use that product, it becomes important that you understand the intention. So steps have to be explained over there. You need to tell them how to use that product, what are the do's and don'ts, how to clean that product, all those things. So now the purpose has got to be clear. Why are you writing this communication? Hey, people will keep coming and they will. Sometime we'll continue in this format, right? Step number three is starting with Step number three, starting with writing process. So once you understand who the reader is and what is your purpose, you'll start the writing process. How do you do that? You probably obviously the physical things that are required. If you're doing it on a digital, say gadget, if it is a mobile or a laptop, a computer, you set that right? And then if it is in writing, say on paper, so you get your stationery and things, you get into the mood, write at the set space, all that. Then developing the idea. right? Now, so if it is an advertisement, you will have to develop some kind of a plan. If it is a request, an email requesting somebody getting something done, so you'll have to plan it. How do you want to present it? Probably it could even be a letter requesting some due payments being made, right? So how do you put your ideas into words so that you don't offend and you get your work done? So you need to develop your idea that way. Then comes writing a plan. What comes earlier, what comes later, all those things. So a plan has to be there. Now when you talk about these plans, there's something called mind maps. I hope you're following me. Now mind maps, very interesting concept, right? In this concept, you draw the things pictographically on a piece of paper or maybe digitally, and you connect them through arrows, dots, in form of a flow chart. Maybe how would this happen? This helps you. It will keep irritating me. I'm sorry. Okay, so so in form of a pictographical representation, it helps you plan your communication better. So what are mind maps? Mind maps can be created using combination of color coding, short text, doodles, short phrases, division of knowledge or information into small pieces. Now mind map is an informal way of jotting it down, right? It is not a part of your formal communication, but it helps you plan your formal communication better, right? So mind maps could be useful. I've given you examples over here. You can you can use mind maps to plan your communication better, right? Okay, after which step number 7 is about structuring, how to outline. Even mind maps can be helpful in this stage as well, right? How, what should be the structure of it? Is it a very formal letter? Is it a semi formal letter? Is it what kind of a communication it is? You can structure it accordingly. Even in old days, the formal letters too had various categories, right? Not all those letters would be written the same way. There were letters of application, there were letters of, very, I am sure you must have learned those letters when you were in school. But then, interestingly, these days, after the advent of the digital medium, say internet and emails and so many other formats, now the structures have reduced a lot. You follow some simple structures, everything on left side, and then you begin with the addressee and your salutations, date, at times subject also, body, and in the end, uh, you you sign off. So structures have become easier these days and common these days, but then still you need to follow an outline for different kind of letters. If it is, even though you're communicating to somebody, but okay, let me refer to these letters that you receive from your banks these days. I'm sure all of you have your bank accounts. You probably have your cards as well, say debit cards or credit cards. Now you keep receiving these letters from your banks. I'm sure you do. Now these letters are written in informal manner, right? So, dear sir, and they directly come to the point, and in the end, warm regards or warm wishes, and they're done. Not too much of structuring happens. So, obviously, it depends, right? Now, once all this is done, you put it on paper. If you're writing it on paper, if you're typing it somewhere, do it that way. Then reworking the draft. Once you've written it, then you rework the draft. So the area that I come from, I'm from a creative field, right? There we often write scripts for, say, shows or programs or dramas. Now these scripts, once you write them, we always stress on a rule. We call it the first draft principle. You would even find it on internet. The first draft principle says, write it down, just jot it down, and then tear the piece of paper and then throw it away. Rewrite it. So first draft is just for structuring, just for getting the idea on paper, and then the second draft, the third draft is the final one. So reworking the draft. Then integrating feedback. Once you get it, you should probably be taking a feedback from people, and then use that feedback, after which polishing the draft has to be done. So in final stage, you polish it. Finishing touches are given to the draft. So maybe at certain places you want to insert some beautiful, lovely, some decorative words, or you want to add or attach something to it. So the polishing has to be done in the end, and that's it. So these are the 11 steps of writing a communication, business communication. Now let us begin some nice cases. I'm sure you must have heard about Titanic. How many of us have seen this movie Titanic? How many of us have seen the movie Titanic? Have we? Have
Yes,
we?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So obviously, this case is not about that movie, but then Titanic. Either you've seen the movie or you must have read the story of Titanic. Titanic was a ship in sometime in 1911 and 12. It was when it was made, it was considered or to be declared to be the uh, up to date, the most high tech ship then, and it was claimed that Titanic is never going to sink, right? But then on its first voyage itself, it struck an iceberg and it drowned. So Titanic is considered to be a very tragic story. Movies and the famous movie Titanic. Not only that, but there are other movies also, and a lot of books have been written, stories have been written on Titanic. A lot of artwork has been done. It is said to be a very painful story. So Titanic, when I correlate it with the communication, see how it happened. So in 1912 April, it was the first voyage of this ship called Titanic. I hope we do understand when we join late, we not only miss out ourselves, we disturb others also. So henceforth, let us keep it in mind. Anyway, Titanic. So, it had the best technologically advanced things in it, Titanic. So it was said that it could communicate to people very easily. So the system was called top of the line Marconi wireless communication system, जो Titanic में use किया गया था then. Passengers were sending a lot of messages because it was their first experience and they were so elated about it. In fact, being on Titanic was considered to be something very aspirational and something only the wealthiest people could have done. So people who were there, they were boasting about it. They were sending messages to friends and family continuously, right? So their wireless system was continuously busy. Jack Phillip, who sent them via Morse code. So there was something called Morse code, and through which all these messages were being sent. But after this final cheery message about the nice weather, there was somebody who sent a message. The last message, which was a happy message, which mentioned the nice weather on Titanic. The next message Philip sent was more dire. Come at once, have struck a bird, right? So we have struck an iceberg, and please come and help us was the message that was sent through Titanic. But then the Titanic began to send distress when it began to send distress messages. The Titanic, if you could give me a while. All right, sorry for the inconvenience. Yes. So when these distress messages were being sent, uh, there were other ships around who could receive these messages, and but then see, Titanic, since it was declared that it is never going to sink, it is such an high tech ship. So people thought, was it really a fact? So there were messages being sent from the other ships to Titanic. So these days, often on days when something big happens, you experience a congestion in your networks. A similar kind of congestion struck. The communication system became clogged with so many ingoing and outgoing messages that Titanic SOS pleas were getting lost. So they were requesting, but their requests were getting lost. And that was another reason that added to the disaster. Maybe some help could have come a little earlier, maybe. But then, since there were so many messages, the network got jammed and the ship could not be saved. So very, very tragic. So again, written communication, and we need to understand the value of the written communication, right? Okay, let's take another example. The people from Bhopal. Anybody from Bhopal over here? Anybody? Anybody hailing from Bhopal today? Nobody? Okay. Now, I am from Bhopal, right? Right from birth, I've been staying here in Bhopal. For some time I was outside, but then majorly a major part of my life I've spent here in Bhopal. So Bhopal, if you type Bhopal on Google, the first thing that comes searching for Bhopal is Bhopal gas tragedy. Bhopal is known for this tragedy. So in December 1984, there was this factory here in Bhopal called Union Carbide that used to make pesticides here. Now, so there were some dangerous gases and liquids filled in huge tanks here in Bhopal. And then in December 1984, one of those plants got burst. Some gases and fumes spread all across Bhopal, and thousands of people died. And not only that night, after that, for years, the aftermaths of gas tragedy we've been bearing them. So a lot has happened in these 36 years. But then, yes, Bhopal gas tragedy is something that is unforgettable, and we need to learn lessons from it. Not only lessons of how, what to do and how to tackle these uh, situations where disasters can come, but then, apart from that, we also need to learn how important communications are, how seriously these communications should be taken. Let me give you some examples. So, in December 1981, 3 years before the actual tragic incident took place, in 1981, a gas leak happened at the Union Carbide plant and killed one worker. 3 years prior to it, right? In January 1982, another gas leak happened. 25 workers were hospitalized then. In September 1982, right? 2 years before the mishap, UCIL, the company, de-linked the alarm from the siren. So there was an alarm. Every time the gas would leak, the alarm would play. Now they so this company was from US. Mr. Anderson used to operate it. It was his ownership. When they realized that the sirens were going on every now and then, so they de-linked it so that the sirens don't play when gas leaks. So only employees were warned, but the people living in the neighboring areas were not informed. And to add to the worst, I don't know how they obtained the permissions, but then this factory, this dangerous factory, was built right in the heart of the city. There were habitations all around. It was so tragic. In 1983, a year later, another leak from the plant in which 100 residents had to be hospitalized. Leakages were happening every now and then, so frequently. 19 of March 1983, Bhopal lawyer Shahnawaz Khan, he served a legal notice to UCIL. So there were some people who were actually taking action. So this lawyer sent a legal notice, and when I say legal notice, it is a document, a written document, and this was not taken seriously neither by the company, the factory owners, and nor by the local authorities. Probably, if the authorities had taken it seriously, then it could have been avoided, right? Then April 29th, 1983, almost 2 months later, in a written reply, UCIL's work manager denied the allegations. He said nothing of that sort was happening. December 3, 1984, gas leaked. There was no warning. The residents in that locality, in fact, almost the whole of Bhopal, then they suffered. Thousands of them died. If you can see the picture over here, look, these are real pictures. These are not created pictures. This is the factory. This is how it happened. This is this has become a poster picture of this child died, and when it was buried with open eyes, it was on the front page then. So it was a catastrophe. Yes, a catastrophe that can never be forgotten. Now, more to it. For 3 years, 3 years since 1981, for 3 years, Bhopal journalist Rajkumar Keswani kept warning the administration that the Union Carbide plant was unsafe. This man was writing in newspaper, he was sending letters to the authorities, but nobody lent ears. Nobody. The article was named Bhopal sitting on a volcano. I have personally, I mean, 2, 3 years ago, this gentleman died, Mr. Keswani. He's no more now. But then I've interviewed him several times. I've spoken to him a lot of times. He became an acquaintance later, and he told me a lot of details later also. But the fact remains, he had informed everybody through newspapers, through letters, but nobody lent ears to the written communication. Published just months before the tragedy, warning letters to then Chief Minister Arjun Singh were ignored. Well, and that's how the tragic incident happened. How important written communications are, imagine. Okay, now we go to the next unit, which is short business correspondences. So the business communication happens in two formats. There are correspondences which are short. There are other communications which are longer in nature. So there are various types of communications. When I say short communications, these are usually emails and very precise formatted communications. So let us have a look at the various types of business communication. Internal correspondence, which happens within the company, within the organization. External ones, so to other companies, towards other organizations, or maybe towards your clientele or suppliers, maybe, right? Or maybe even government. Sales correspondence, while you're dealing with a particular client and you're selling off your product and there are some communications required, those are sales communications. Personalized correspondence, a one-to-one correspondence with somebody. Circulars, now these circulars could be internal as well as external. Circular is a piece of information, a written piece of information which circulates certain information which is intended to be spread commonly among a certain group or people. So circular. Then routine correspondence, there could be some routine correspondence. These are types of business correspondences. Let us take some examples of this now. Right? PayPal. Now, I'm sure you are aware of these new age companies which are called the gateways, payment gateways. So, when you're buying something through a website, some e-commerce website, you realize you make your payments even while paying your bills online. You realize there are few names through which you do your payments. One of them is PayPal. The digital payment company needed to address an internal report that revealed not all their employees were using PayPal app. Now, PayPal has an app, right? Now, when I have a company and I have certain employees, as a company, PayPal expected that all their employees should be using the app. They should download and they should use the app. When they realized, they did a survey among their employees and they realized their own employees were not using the app. So they got furious. The president, David Marcus, wrote a company wide memo to all the staff regarding the problem. So they were worried if there would be people outside, they would say, see, your own employees are not using your products. Why should we use? So they issued a memo, a common memo to all of them. What did the memo say? David Marcus took a heavy handed approach to the matter. He told his staff to use the product or quit. He said, either you use this product, you download the app, or leave the organization and go. So, within double quotes, if you are one of the folks who refuse to install the PayPal app, or if you can't remember your PayPal password, do yourself a favor. Go find something that will connect with your heart and mind elsewhere. This was so rude and direct, right? Now, what happened after this? The memo was leaked to the press. So, there were employees who swiftly, secretly shared it with somebody in press. It generated widespread coverage all across the media, and left customers wondering what was wrong with an app that PayPal's own staff wouldn't use. So this ignited a fire. It backfired, in fact, and it caused a lot of misfortune to the company itself. So whatever you're writing in the communication is so very crucial. Whom are you writing to, and what are you writing? Your choice of words, your choice of ideas, right? It is so important. PayPal. Roswell Honda in July 2000. This is another case, right? Are we on the same page? Are we getting it? Any questions? Anything that you want to say or add? Yes. Yes. I presume there is no question, right? Till now, you're getting everything. Okay, let's go ahead. In July 2007, some folks in Roswell, New Mexico, went to their mailboxes to discover that they had each won $1,000 from the Roswell Honda car dealership in a scratch off direct mail sweepstakes. So, even you must have come across some offers where you scratch a card, or digitally you have a card and you need to scratch it, and there is a gift behind the this thing, the card. When you scratch, you get to know what you're getting. So, some people received it. Now, what was the problem? Again, written communication. Huh? What was the problem? There were around 30,000 people who received the same message. Everybody got a car. Oh my God. The car dealership was left explaining to an angry mob. Everybody came there. They said, see, we have got this. Now we claim, give us a car. 30,000 people claiming a car. That it couldn't pay their winning tickets. The company was in a dilemma now. How do they explain it? All because the ad agency designing the promotion failed to check the scratch off tickets carefully. The company who were designing the tickets, they should have checked their communication before they actually released it, and hence this problem came up. There is another company called IKEA, IKEA, IKEA. Now, what happened with them? Now, this company manufactures furnishings, furnitures, these things, home furnishings, cushions, and all those things and furnitures. So, what happened with them? What went wrong? Let's have a look. The Sweden-based home furnishings company IKEA is famous for its modernistic furniture styles and for one other thing. It's wordless assembly instructions. So these people, the IKEA people, as I told you, when you sell off a product, you have to give a manual with it, how to use that product, right? So even these people were giving away certain manuals, certain instruction leaflets along with their products. Buy an IKEA computer station, for example, and you get 32 pages of assembly instructions without a single word, only illustrations. So their instruction manuals, they were only full of pictures. There was nothing written on them in words. They were only pictographical pictures giving were given in it. Why? In this way, the company, which has customers worldwide, can avoid having prints in its instructions in many languages. Now, these people were avoiding that they get their instructions translated in a lot of languages, since they were working in a lot of countries and cities. So they wanted to avoid that they get it printed in so many languages. So they found it easier if they get pictures done. People will see the pictures and use it. They were saving on written communication. Now what happened? Wordless instructions, however, can have two drawbacks. So when you don't use words, written communication, only pictures, what happens? One, they sometimes leave out steps. So pictures don't explain all the steps, right? There are some things which are left to be understood by themselves. Two, they don't work well for those who are not good at translating the images they see into actions. So not everybody is good at reading these pictures, right? A few of us were good at origami because they understood what instructions were given in the books. Paper art, You remember when we were in school, there were books and small square papers, and they had instructions in these books. So some of us understood those instructions very well, how to fold the paper and make certain things. But there are some others who would get stuck. Now, what to do after this fold? You remember that? Same way here, there were people who did not understand what those pictures said, right? Now, the results can be tragic. In recent years, at least two children were killed when IKEA dressers, so dressing table is called dresser, tipped over onto them. The dressing table fell over some children, and there were two children. They got killed in similar incidents, separate incidents, right? IKEA claims that it wants buyers to anchor such items to walls to prevent them from tipping over. So IKEA said that they had given instructions in forms of pictures which said that you should tie or hang these items with the wall, attach them with the wall, tying them to it, anchor them there, right? For conveying such important warnings, they were using only pictures. In response, IKEA has had to create a series of TV advertisements warning its customers always to anchor large pieces of furniture. So when they were saving on printing, they had to actually do TV ads and spend a lot more money now. Right? Importance of written communication. Now, this is another case. Are you finding it interesting, or should we skip and go ahead? Is it interesting?
Yeah, sir, it is interesting.
It is okay. Okay. Let us
Yes.
let us take the next one now. Bruce was a person, a researcher, a chemist for a major petrochemical company. So there was a company, petroleum related chemicals they were working upon. Wrote a dense report about some new components he had synthesized in laboratory from oil refining byproducts. So there was this company, they were working on the petroleum oils, and there were some byproducts that they received from the refining. Now, the bulk of these byproducts, sorry, the bulk of these reports. So this fellow who was working in this company was preparing certain reports. These reports had certain tables. It had a lot of details about these chemicals and its physical properties. There were diagrams, molecular structures, chemical formulas, all those details, right? Now he shared these things with the company. Buried at the end of the report was a casual speculation that one of the compounds might be a particularly effective insecticide. So, in these chemical tests, this fellow, whose name was Bruce, he discovered an insecticide. So, this insecticide was coming out as a byproduct out of those petroleum products, and it was less harmful as compared to the insecticides that we use in market. So 7 years less now. So this fellow, he shared this with the company, but the company did not take it seriously. 7 years later, the same oil company launched a major research program to find more effective but environmentally friendly or safe insecticides. So some years later, 7 years later, the company started another research. They had forgotten that Bruce had told us something. They forgot that, and they started another research to discover some insecticides, to make some insecticides. After 6 months of research, some uncovered Bruce reports. Someone uncovered. So when they were doing the research, somebody in the team found out the report somewhere. A few hours of further testing confirmed that Bruce's compound was safe. So they did tests on Bruce's research. They found out, oh, it was a very good finding, right? They found out it was a marvelous research. It was a marvelous research, and it was very useful. So they then started working on it. They then started working on it. But by then, Bruce had since left the company because he felt that the importance of this research was not being appreciated. Chalo, for a certain period of time, you have, after 7 years, in these 7 years, you could have made such profits and helped people out. One. Two, When after these 7 years, you come at the same conclusion, you discover there was this research done, but then you've lost an employee who was so talented, who was so loyal. He could have used his talent somewhere else, no? But then he was loyal to inform the company. But you lost him because you did not believe the written communication. You did not take it seriously. You did not read it, and you did not value the person. So again, it's so important. So these are written communication cases that we have just now discussed. Now in this written communication, there is another twist. There are different types of words that are being used in written communication, right? And a lot of these words come from other countries or the other languages. These are called foreign words and phrases. It is a part of your syllabus. In short, I'll tell you the important ones, the most common 15 foreign words. The first one is ad hoc. I'm sure you have heard this term, ad hoc job. Have you heard? Now, ad hoc means for a particular purpose, only for some time, for a project or for some time, for some particular purpose only. Ad hoc. Bona fide. Somebody. Sorry.
Roopak, this is Shruti here.
Yeah.
I think your voice is echoing because you have two accounts. I think you can close one.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Your voice is echoing.
My voice
Echoing.
is
Your
No,
echoing.
there is
Oh,
ma'am.
echo in your voice.
No, no, ma'am. Sir's voice is okay. I mean,
is it?
Okay.
your voice is echoing.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Rest of you, is that fine?
Fine, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Fine, fine.
Okay. So we're talking about certain foreign words, and I'm giving you a list of 15 words which are most common. Bona fide means genuine or trustworthy. De facto, actual or real. En route, on the way. You're going from somewhere, and this lies on the way, right? Ex officio. So this is about rank or position, something that is related to rank and position. Ex officio. Ex parte, only one sided. You hear this term a lot of times in courts. So if there is a case going on in a court, and there is only one of the two parties coming in court and the other one is not attending the hearings, then a lot of times the court declares it in favor of one of the party who's coming, believing that the other party is not interested. And this sort of declarations are called ex parte, only one sided. Laissez faire, free, which is open to all, right? Modus operandi, way of doing something, right? System, par excellence, eminently, something which is very great, something which is very good. Excellence ke bhi upar, beyond excellence. Per capita, per head, prima facie, on the face of it, initial stages, right? When you first look at something, prima facie. Status quo, the existing condition, something that is there. So a lot of times you must have heard that people say something should be left the way it is. Status quo, right? Sub judice, something that is under consideration for a judicial body. So often we hear people in their statements, when media would ask them, they would say, no, this case is under legal, it is sub judice. So I will not comment on it, right? Versus, against, vis-a-vis, in relation to something or someone. These are the most common ones. And in regular parley, regular communication, these are the most used terms. Besides, from the examination purpose, also usually these are very popular terms. Okay, another case study. Email fails. The University of California at San Diego sent an email congratulating students who were accepted to the university. So obviously there are entrance exams happening. You people must have gone through it. You must have heard of it. all the universities, all the colleges, they have their entrance exams either collectively or individually, and it is to screen, since they have certain number of seats, so they want to screen certain students can get admission. So they have a criteria. A lot of times tests are done, interviews are done, whatever. So this University of California, they too did some sort of test or whatever. Now they had to declare who are the ones who are selected. So for that, they sent emails to people who were selected. The university fired off the email to all 40,000 applicants. Now there were 40,000 people who had applied for this course, and email was sent to all the 40,000 people saying that yes, you've been selected, including tens of thousands of them who had already received rejection notices. The ones who were rejected also, they were also sent the email saying you were selected. Obviously, when you get an email saying I have been selected, you've been selected, people get furious. People start claiming, give me a seat there. This elicited confusion and outrage from the students and parents. Written communication. Yeah. Zika is a famous car, and when it was launched in 2015, the name had to be changed to Tiago because Zika virus was spreading then. So yeah, Tata's car, Tiago. It was previously called Zika. Look at this picture. Sorry, you might find it a little objectionable or offensive, but then look at the irony in this picture. The written communication. It is in Hindi as well as in English. Here, up here, wear, wear, wear. So it is supposed to be an English word, but wear or wear in English means something else. Bear or bear means something else, right? While over here, if you see, child bear, right? So instead of writing chilled, they've written child, and instead of writing bear, it is written bear. So bacha bhalu, child bear. Written communication, how crucial it is. Keep aside where it comes from, keep aside the objectionable content, but what is important over here is how do we communicate and miscommunicate in written words. For past 2.5 years, sanitization has been very crucial. Now look at this signboard which says, please sanitize your hands here. Anything wrong with this? Who will tell me what's wrong?
Satanize.
Satanize.
Satanize. Now satanize means a devil or a giant, right? Satanize means make it devilish. Shaitan. Satanize. Yeah, please satanize your hands here. Spelling mistake, written communication. Another sign board or notice. Attention, toilet only for disabled, elderly, pregnant children. So probably this this bill or note wanted to say that toilet should be used only by disabled people or elderly people or pregnant women or children. Young men are not allowed to use that toilet. Chalo, understood once. But then what have you written there? There is no comma, there is no separator, there is nothing that tells, are you talking about children who are pregnant and elderly and disabled, or you're talking about people from these different categories? A major problem with written communication over here. Yes, read this advertisement. Who will tell me what's wrong with this advertisement? Who will tell me what was wrong with the advertisement? You want to see it again?
Yeah, it's four
Yes,
for the
Pratiksha, you want to
price
say
of
something?
five instead of five
Yeah.
in the price of four.
Yes. So what is ridiculous over here is, see, when you advertise or when you see such offers, you realize for paying for a lesser amount, you get more usually. But here they've written you pay for 5 and we'll give you 4. They did not check it before printing it. Another article or advertisement. So somebody must have written it for some digital communication, and the same script was supplied to the print guys also. So here they have written click here to compare them. Look at it. Such a pity. Yeah? Okay, another objectionable advertisement over here. Keep her where she belongs. Shoes. Should women be treated that way? What are you communicating? That women are lowly. Google also did a similar mistake once, and they one of their employees said something which was very mean about women. That women should prove their talent and then ask for pay rise. This happened, and he also used certain words like neuroticism and all. And this employee was thrown out of Google. It was in 2017, so it was very controversial memo. Okay, since we're talking about written communication and we have discussed so many things, I would recommend you something, right? Not as a homework or not as an assignment, but then I would recommend that you read these. These are beautiful pieces of written work. So there was a letter written, and all these letters are written by some celebrity parents to their celebrity kids, right? You must read them. They're wonderful. So the first one of them is a letter by the founder of Infosys, Narayan Murthy, to his daughter Akshata. And Akshata, by the way, is in news these days, if you know that. She is the wife of Rishi Sunak, who is probably going to be the next Prime Minister of Britain. Interestingly, UK. Yeah. So Akshata. So this letter was written by Narayan Murthy to Akshata, his daughter. Gulzar Sahab, the lyricist and poet, he wrote a letter to Meghna Gulzar, his daughter. Cricketer VVS Lakshman wrote a letter to his children, Sarvajit and Achintya. You can definitely read these letters. Sanjeev Kapoor wrote a letter to his daughter Rachita, right? And then badminton ace Prakash Padukone, who is the father of Deepika Padukone, the famous ace actress. And this letter too is a beautiful one. So Shmita Sen has adopted two girls, and she wrote letters to her daughters. This one specifically to Rini, and you must read this letter too. She has adopted these two kids. So another beautiful letter, right? So so a lot of written communication. I don't know if you people are interested. I can even suggest you some books. There is a book written. I'm forgetting the name of the author, but then this book is very good. Life is short, and so is this book. It is some 60 something pages. You must read this book too. I'll write the name in messages if you can, if you want to note it down. Okay. Life is short, and so is this book. This is a very interesting book. You should read this. There's another book that you can read, another very crisp and short book, but very nice book. It is 55 questions to ask yourself. A self-help book, but a very nice one. Very nice one. There is another book called The Science of Self-Talk. You can read this book too. Nice books, and they good. They contain good content. So yeah, give it a shot. So with this, we finish the third unit, the third block. Since there is a lot of written work in it, I prefer not to get into the structure part of it. I think you can read that. If there is any problem, you can always ask me. Let us go to the next block now itself. Since we have almost an hour in our hand, we'll focus on block 4 now. Unit 12, communication for employment. Now, this is very crucial for all of us. I'm going to help you with certain things so that when you're applying for jobs, when you're already in jobs, you want to go for another one, this will help you. Resume is very important, and there's a difference between resume and CV. Resume is something that an experienced person would prepare, and CV normally is the first resume that you prepare. once you've completed your studies and you're looking for a job. So your curriculum details, curriculum vitae is CV, and resume is usually, see, these terms are often used interchangeably and you can use them, but then technically there's a difference between the two. So how do you prepare your resume? Your resume should have certain things. You should give facts in your resume. There should be a lot of information which is written under certain categories. Right now, what could these categories or groups be? You will write all your qualifications at one place, all your experiences at one place, all your extracurricular activities and things at one place. That's how you divide it, right? Write a heading, write those things below that. And the third important thing about a resume is tabular presentation. If you can do all this in form of tables, it becomes easier and less boring for the person who's reading it, right? There's a checklist when you're writing your resume, whenever you're preparing your CV or resume. How do you? There are certain steps that you should follow so as to avoid any confusion or mistake. The first one is present address, the place where you're living. Professional email. Your email is very important. I will give you some examples also. Very interesting examples, in fact. Professional email. Your email should has got to be professional, right? Three, important achievements. All those achievements, all those prizes that you've got, all those appreciations that you've received, major projects that you've done should be there. Proper categorization, everything should be put under different headings into various categories and then written so that it is better comprehensible by the other person. Free of errors should not be there, so do proofreading after it, right? Critical information to be listed at the beginning, all those important things. Like these days when you make a resume, you give your address, your mobile number, your email ID right at the top, and when you initiate, you do it in reverse order. So if you have done certain jobs, your experiences come the first and then the other things, right? Up to date information, keep your resume update. You should never get into a situation where you say, oh, this is an old resume, I haven't updated, I have done this also, right? So that should not happen, because that shows lethargy, which should not happen. Clean and clear, it should be nice, compact, clean, should not be cluttered, right? Appealing, should be interesting. So these things you should keep in mind when you're preparing your resume. Now, these days, a lot of people make video resumes also. Instead of writing it on a piece of paper or a soft copy on a digital this thing, they make videos. And videos are often used in creative fields, usually. So, what things you should keep in mind? Eliminate the background distractions. Professional language should be used. Proper voice modulation should happen. There should be a script when you're dubbing it. Script should be based on the requirement of the interviewer. So you are saying something else while the other person needs some other qualities and he has certain other priorities. It should be in sync with the requirements. It should be precise and short. Long videos are a big no. Share with mentor and friends for review before you publish them or you send them to somebody. Edit, re-edit before posting them, right? And what about the curriculum vitae? Usually, it is made in the initial stages of your career, right? So qualifications, work experience, accomplishments, publications, all this information comes under curriculum. Is more important in curriculum vitae. A checklist for curriculum vitae, and of course for CVs also. Specific fonts should be used. The fonts that you use should be professional ones, right? At times we get very creative, Comic Sans or similar fonts are used, but these are not appreciated. These don't convey the right message. As I told you on the first day itself, fonts also convey certain information. Candidate's name must appear on the top of the corner of the CV, right? Photo can also be there. Proper spacing and grouping. Use formal email IDs. Email ID, once again, I say, is so very crucial. A specific career objective has to be written. A lot of people copy it from others. One of your friends' email, or sorry, one of your friends' CV, or maybe something from the internet. But then that again leaves a bad impression. Be very careful when you're choosing your aim or target or your career objective. You should be clear what you want in your career, and that should be put there in best possible words. and not very long. Avoid jargons and slogans. Jargon, I told you the other day, if you remember, jargons are technical terms or abbreviations that certain people in a fraternity or a particular industry use, and this is not easily understood by people in other communities of fraternities. So avoid jargons. And slang, of course, is not a formal language. It does not leave a good impression. Slang, I always suggest, should not be used in day-to-day life also. So yeah, leave slangs. Additional information like hobbies, interests should be given. References should be given. So references very important in your CV. Why? Because if there is somebody who wants to confirm what you're saying is right or not, they can call or email to your references and check it. So it adds value to your information that you're supplying, right? So references are good. Okay, now you could ask me, one of you, I expected you raise hands. Have you? No, nobody has done that. I was expecting that you raise hands. And ask me what all fonts should be used, but nobody did. That's okay. There are some fonts which I recommend. Arial could be used, Georgia, all of them. Times Roman is most common. So use these fonts. You could take a picture of this and use these fonts when you're writing a CV or a formal communication. Take a picture of it before we go ahead. I'll take a sip of water by the way. I hope you're done. Now, look at these weird email IDs. I mentioned twice, thrice, your email IDs have got to be very professional. Look at this email ID. Cool Dude 86, whatever. Crazy Punk Master, Anna Cute, Hotmail. Oh my God, these are bad email IDs. Avoid anything of this sort. Avoid that. Don't. If you have any of these email IDs, restrict them to your friends, but then make professional email ID. What are professional email IDs? Look at this. There is a format how you make your professional email ID. Ideally, it should be your first name, initial, dot, last name, and then at the rate whatever. If you don't get that, there are people who have come Ankit, Saurabh, Aditya. These are all very common names, and I know it is difficult to find the right domain. What you can do over then is first name, initial, last name without any dots or anything. Or maybe first name, dot, last name, and then initial. Or maybe first name, last name, initial, everything. Try various ways. First name and then domain. Last name dot first name, whatever. But then it should be professional. It should, at times, it could even be about the field that you're working in, the organization, or your expertise. Maybe that could be done. So suppose if you're an architect, you could say Rahul is an architect. Rahul could say Rahul architect or Rahul arc, whatever. But then it should convey some meaningful information. It should look professional. It should be decent. So good email IDs. Now, before we go for certain case studies, let me also tell you something about interview portfolios. Interview portfolio is very close to CVs and resumes. So, a portfolio is a collection of candidates' entire skill set, experience, and achievements. Whatever you know, you've learned, whatever you are, and then whatever experiences you have and achievements you've made in your life, all that comes under portfolio. So, here you don't need to write much, but then you give proofs of your work, right? Portfolio. So the most common portfolios you must have heard of would be the modeling portfolios. Yeah. So people have their photographs there with different poses, different kind of costumes they're wearing, and different locations. Those are called portfolios for modeling. Similarly, there are portfolios made by architects, portfolios made by engineers, portfolios made by artists, portfolios made by musicians, so many of them. So there they're exhibiting their skill sets, experience, and achievements. What should be there in a portfolio? You should begin with candidate's introduction, professional background. Then there is something called the STAR formula. I had mentioned this earlier also, the STAR formula. It is very useful. I'll explain that once again in coming slides, but then there should be a STAR formula here. Then candidate's achievements should come, his or her goals should come. Conclude with prominent points. You give all that information, and then whatever is crucial about you, and that should be correlated and matched with the job you're looking for or the company you're applying with, right? So conclusion should have prominent points. Choose the most effective medium to design candidates portfolio, right? And then keep evolving candidates portfolio. Medium, when I say, it could be a video, it could be a file folder, it could be an album, whatever it is. It could be an audio file, but then it should be effective, keeping in mind where you're applying, what kind of job you're looking for. Keep evolving candidates. It should be, you should keep updating your portfolio, not that you made it 5 years ago and then you're presenting it today also. So keep updating it, make it easy to understand and comprehend, right? Now, what is STAR formula? I mentioned STAR. STAR formula is very easy. S stands for situation. Recall the situation the candidate was in. Any situation, any problem you were in, any circumstances where that you came across. Situation. 2, task. Describe the task the candidate had to do. Whatever work in that situation you were supposed to do. What was the target you were supposed to achieve? Then action. What did you do? Outline the action the candidate took. And then the result. What came out? What was the final outcome of this action that you took? Right? So that is STAR formula. So suppose you want to say that I am very good at interpersonal skills. You have written this in your resume or your portfolio. Now, if you've written that, you should apply a STAR formula to it. You have interpersonal skills. Give us a situation where you used your interpersonal skills. What was the task where you were supposed to put your interpersonal skills to task? Then what action did you take? Keeping that problem or incident in mind, what action did you take? And then what was the result of that activity? All that has to come here, right? Okay, in short, I will also talk about interview. Interview is very, very crucial because all of us face interviews through our lives, especially in these years of learning or working. It is a very common practice, right? So interview, there are certain skills that you should know, certain tips that I would give you. So screening or telephonic interview, which is usually done in the first stages. Personal, these are types of interviews, right? Personal interview is done when one-on-one person is being interviewed. Behavior-based interview, where certain tasks are verbally told to you, and then how do you react to it? To check your teamwork, habits, then problem solving abilities, creativity, flexibility, organizational strength. All these qualities are to be checked, and hence in an interview you are given certain situations, and then how would you react to them, how would you respond is being asked. Task based interviews or tests, certain task is given and then you do it then and there in the interview. Stress interview, a lot of uh, tough or tricky situations you're put into, and then you are being observed how you tackle those situations. So various types of interviews. Management based interviews, case studies are given, life in situations are given. Focused interviews, specific. So when you're experienced, you've done certain things for a certain number of years, you are put into a situation where your those skills are being tested. Focused interviews. And exit interviews, where people are leaving a certain organization and they are asked about what was the experience, why are they leaving, what kind of good or bad things happened with them, uh, would they want to come back. So these are called exit interviews. What is the process of interview? So, job description, what kind of a job is being considered, that person is being considered for. Advertising for the job, advertisements are being sent. Screening is done, interview is scheduled, preliminary interview is done when, you know, broad things are talked about, and then a personal interview is done where specific things are talked about. Follow up happens, and then hiring is done. So this is the process of interview. There's something called the group discussion. Group discussion is that part where some people are collectively put into a situation, or a certain topic is given to them. They are left free to discuss it among themselves, and obviously, then they are being observed. There are topics given, information based topics are given, or non-knowledge based topics are given. There are various ways. This is part of your syllabus also. It's given. Case-based group discussions happen where a certain case study is given to people, and then they are asked to analyze and give their own opinions and solutions about that case. Article-based group discussions, right? Certain particular thing or issue, and then based on it, discussions happen. And when I say article based, it could even be about a certain newspaper article or journal that you are being, shared with, and you need to discuss that article maybe. So with this, we finish the unit 12, and we come to the unit 13, which is about technology and communication. I say we're living in an ice age these days. When I say ice age, what do you understand by ice age? Anybody who has comments about ice age? I believe we are living in ice age. Do you agree? What is ice age? Have you heard anything about ice age? Anybody?
No, sir.
No? So there were times when there was snow all over. The earth was covered with snow. That time is called ice age. There was a time in our history, millions of years ago, that is called ice age. Yeah? And I say we're living in ice age. Difficult to comprehend? Ice age, when I say, I am referring to this: information, communication, entertainment, ICE, ICE. This is the era of ICE. And the power of ICE is this. These days, on social media, one small thing, and people come on roads, millions of them. Not only in one city, everywhere, all across the world at times. That's the power of ICE: information, communication, and education. Sorry, entertainment. And obviously, communication industry is huge now. Not only radio and TV, there are telegraphs, publishing, advertising, tele. So people who are interested in the field of communication, any of you, if you are interested in communication, trust me, there are loads and loads of jobs there, loads and loads of opportunities there, all these different sectors and companies there. And in fact, for that matter, every company also needs people who are good communicators. So yes, public relations, computer database, information industries, lot of jobs. But then, since your syllabus wants us to discuss the technological part correlated with the communication part, so something which is very the most important part of it is internet. And your syllabus also mentions something called intranet. What is internet? There are people in certain localities, certain organizations, certain setup. When within their setup they're communicating, it's called intranet. Intra, within. Intra personal, we learned intrapersonal and interpersonal. Same way, internet is a network which is out there, and intranet is within a certain setup. So internet is global, intranet is private. Internet is public network. This is restricted. Internet is information is on internet information is accessible to all. Intranet, only certain users can access it. Internet is large and there are millions and millions and billions of users on it, while on internet only certain people who are allowed. Internet is less secure. Yes, internet is more secure. Internet is not regulated, while intranets are regulated. There are rules and regulations. While there's a high traffic on internet, intranet, the traffic is limited. There are so many types of things which are technologically correlated or related with communication. Multimedia presentations can be given, information and communication with technology, e-commerce websites, healthcare, e-learning, customer connect, everything. All this is communication, and all this uses, all of it uses, what do you say, technology, right? Virtual meetings are happening these days. Corona period has given us a different insight, a different angle to communication. In fact, teleconferencing, video conferencing, messaging tools, all this is technology combined with communication. Lean media and rich media. Now, what is lean media and rich media? See, there are different mediums. There are different mediums. To my surprise, we're still joining. Okay, lean medium. A medium, lean means thin, right? So a medium which has less of visual information is called a lean medium, because the interaction is very low in it. As I told you in the first presentation, day one, see, verbal communication versus non-verbal communication is very crucial. So a major part of our communication is done non-verbally. Along with the words, there is so much that we convey non-verbally, right? So if the visual information is missing, it is called a lean medium, right? Examples are letters, reports, memos, etc. Even email. Now here is a chart which shows low richness and high richness. The more the richness, the medium is less lean. The low the richness, the medium is more lean, Lean, lean. So computer printouts, lean. Written reports, lean. Emails, lean. Telephone, since there is a little bit of non-verbal communication, para language and all via telephone, so it is less lean. Video conferencing, even less lean. But if you're sitting right in front, face to face, it is the least lean medium, right? There's something called social media management these days, very common. What kind of content should go, where it should go, how it is presented, how it is promoted, all of it is a part of social media management. Consistent connectivity with the customers is important. Effective management of multiple social pages is important. Effective management of customized customer relationships. Presenting reports to stakeholders, streamlining strong team collaboration. All this comes under social media management. Now there are so many social media available to us these days: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchats, what else, uh, uh, then these audio platforms, and so much of it, YouTube, all these social media. And these days businesses are using social media in multiple ways to communicate with their customers, their clients and other businesses, and they're expressing themselves, they're reaching out people. It is in fact low cost also, and it has a high reach and worldwide. So social media becomes very crucial, very important these days. Okay, so with this, we finish the 13th uh, unit as well. And the next one is cross-cultural communication and ethics. These are the two major parts that are left, right? And I have plans of doing it tomorrow because it is a major portion of our syllabus. So I'll take it up tomorrow. But today we can let us discuss something. Any doubts that you have, anything that you want to ask me, anything that you want to tell me? Oh, Akhil had asked me a question, and I think I've missed explaining that. Akhil had asked me about what was it? The you
You
attitude.
attitude.
Yes, yes, the you attitude. Yes, Akhil. I'm sorry I missed it. So, see, yesterday when we were talking about communication and non-verbal communication, and I was telling you, see, uh, when there are two people communicating, one is you and the other one is someone else, right? Or let's say me. When we are communicating with somebody else, what do we do? I said yesterday, it is important that you keep the other person in conversation, right? The communication should go on. This is what you want. And why do you want that? Because you're doing a business, you're representing a company or organization, and you want to communicate certain things to the other person, convey certain information to the other person. And for that, this communication is happening. So, if you really intend or want to communicate, you have to ensure that the communication continues. It should not end quickly. And when you want the communication should continue and it should be completed fruitfully, it is important that the other party remains interested in your communication, right? The people in the on the other side should be engaged in your communication. There are three E's of communication. I don't know I've mentioned it or not in past 2 3 days. Three E's, seven C's I told you. Three E's. Anybody who knows what are these three E's? Yeah. Anybody? No. These are the three E's: education, engaging, and entertaining. Right? The three E's. Now, to keep the conversation going, you should use these three E's. It should be your communication should have these three E's. It should be educating. It should be educating means you are supplying a lot of information. You're telling them something new that they're learning. Two, engaging. They should be involved in it. They should be a part of that communication. And three, entertaining. It should not be boring, right? These three things have to be kept in mind. So when you want to continue the communication till it yields the fruits, you need to ensure these three things. And to keep them engaged and entertained, it is important that you don't talk about yourself, but you talk about themselves. So when I put it in the right context, I would say when we are a team, when we are communicating with somebody else, I should be interested in you, the other person, right? So the attitude should be focused on the attitude should be such that you're focused on the other person, the you in front of you, हमारे सामने जो है, the other person whom we're discussing with, right? So this is called the you attitude. Your communication should be such that you're talking less about yourself, more about the other person. We hear a lot of people when they're discussing, when they're talking, they're always bragging about themselves. What car I have, where went for my holidays, what kind of clothes I have, whom do I share relationships with, XYZ, some IS officer, some businessman, some wealthy, rich people are my neighbors or my relatives, or I know them somehow, I have good connections. It is all about myself. Try talking to people about them, to people about themselves, and recollect those moments when people were talking about you. You automatically get interested when you are being talked about, when you are under the focus, the focal point. So the core idea of you attitude is focus on others rather than yourself. And trust me, when you do so, you get more importance automatically. So that's the you attitude. Any other questions?
Thank you. I have one more question.
Oh yes, please, Akhil. Yeah.
What kind of salutation we should use while writing an professional email? Because I saw some write hi, some write hello, some dear. So,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
should be the right salutation for the professional
Right.
email?
So, Akhil, again, very pertinent question. See, things have changed a lot in past few years. So earlier, since see, we have acquired a lot from British when they were ruling our country. So all our communications post independence were also very much influenced by the British communication, right? Another reason was that all our political leaders at that time were they had done their studies in Britain or elsewhere, some English country. So they were so influenced by the culture. They were in, sorry to say so, but most of them were in awe of the English culture. So the whole communication culture in our country was so influenced by British that we followed their systems only. So being in British system, people had got to remain in their shoes. They were treated very strictly. So the language used were obviously too polite, too respectful, and keeping all that in mind, it became too complicated also. So for a very long time, till say 15, 20 years ago, 15 years, 20 years, okay, till the advent of computers and internet and emails, we continued using that old system, right? So there, the salutations, the body, everything was so complicated. I beg to say so. Why these days we've become very direct after the advent of email, after the coming of emails. It has become very simplified and direct. So for that matter, when we are referring to the salutations, there also uh, we had two respectful salutations and varied salutations in earlier times. These days, most of the times it is dear sir or dear madam. Most of the times, even in formal emails, formal communication, dear sir, dear madam is the most, ma'am is the most common salutation. But then at times, if you're referring to somebody who is, say, much at a much higher hierarchical level in the organizational terms, or maybe age wise or experience wise, you could probably use respected, but usually it is dear sir, dear madam. But then still, when we are addressing somebody in government setup, there are certain protocols that we need to follow. So if you're addressing the prime minister or the governor or some of the ministers, certain terms are being used. Honorable judges are being addressed that way. Justice XYZ, honorable uh, jury. So in those circumstances, in those situations, we use those typical uh, terms these days. But otherwise, it is usually, most of the times, it is dear sir, dear madam. We are very, so earlier we were influenced by British. Now we are very much influenced by Americans. Americans have simplified everything. Everybody dear sir, or you take names. In a lot of organizations these days, here in India also, we take people's names. Even your boss, you will address him by his name. So a lot of letters are directly written addressing the name or dear sir. So less complicated. Body, everything on the left side. A lot of things have language also very direct. I need this, please get this done. XYZ, whatever. Earlier it was, if you could do this, I will be grateful to you. If you could allow me a leave of 2 days, it was so complicated earlier. So it is simplified now. Anything else?
Thank you. Yeah, one more thing. We were talking about the virtual meeting, and we are doing a lot of virtual meetings nowadays.
Yeah.
What are the main points we need to take care of during the virtual meeting? Because sometimes happens, uh, they cross the time frame of that meeting just to discuss, just to elaborate one point
Mm-hmm.
uh, most of the time. So, I mean, how should we do the virtual meeting to be and to be converted into a
Got your point,
productive
Akhil.
meeting?
Akhil, what do you do, by the way?
So I'm working in a multinational company, so as a deputy manager.
Okay, cool. You sound pretty young though, and very pertinent questions that you are asking. Interestingly, the lessons that you have, the literature that you have from IGNU, it contains the details, very very precise. Yet all the points are covered over there.
Mhm.
Where they have written those pointers there. What all things should be kept in mind in a teleconference or a meeting, digital meeting, though it is there. But then see the bottom line is there are certain manners and etiquettes that we need to follow everywhere. When you're doing a face-to-face meeting, also certain things have to be kept in mind. How you sit, you don't interrupt between, you don't uh, you know the kind of words you're using. There are certain rules to those meetings as well. Similarly, in digital meetings, in teleconferences also, there are certain set of rules that we follow. And it's very uh, obvious at times. So like, don't keep your audios on when somebody else is speaking, right? Join on time, speak to the point, don't overlap when somebody else is speaking. These are some basic etiquettes, basic hygiene pointers that you need to keep in mind. There are no there are no rocket science kind of rules. Very basic rules that you need to follow. They're there in your book, and that can be easily followed. Yeah.
Yes, actually, I was more focusing on on the points. I mean, the time which a person takes to elaborate the point. So can we like cut someone in between if if he or she elaborating much
We
or
can obviously do that. We can obviously do that. See what happens when you're speaking in a particular meeting, or when you're speaking to someone face to face. Also, you can always interrupt in between. You might be getting late for something, or maybe there is some information which is not required is being given. You can definitely do that. Uh, uh, you should do that. But then, how you do it is important. The right words should be chosen so that you're polite, you don't offend, you don't insult someone. Only that has to be kept in mind. The choice of right words, you can definitely say so. You can interrupt. Um, as long as, see, when you're talking about a meeting which is happening online and a teleconference per se, a conference means there are a number of people involved. So it could be you who do not find it interesting, or you could be feeling that you're wasting time. The other person is wasting time, but there could be somebody else who feels that, oh, this piece of information is of high utility. So give a thought to that as well before you actually interrupt and stop someone. So once you decide that it is not of any use to any of us or most of us, you can probably make a request politely. That can be done, definitely.
got it? Thank you.
You're welcome, Akil. So nice of you. And I see no other questions, no other hands raised. So I believe we can break here for the day. Tomorrow when we meet, there are two very interesting things that we would be covering. One, the cultural part of communication, and specifically the cross culture communication, when people are from two different cultures and they communicate with each other. So international communication, interstate communication, inter-religion communication, uh, that must uh, be kept in mind, done very carefully. And two, there are ethicalities involved in communication, certain ethics, certain values that you must keep in mind in communication. That will take it up tomorrow. uh, it's so good interacting with you people. Thank you so much for pairing me for all this while. We'll break now and we'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Welcome,
sir.
welcome.